Hello, today we are going to be doing another Muddy Puddles Chimps Black Border Guide, but this one is pretty special. Instead of using Sub Commander, we will be using Azili and Perma spike. So this one's a bit tougher, so if you want to choose for a little bit of an easier route, I have a link to a very good guide that I made that should still work, and many people use it to win, which uses the Sub Commander. But if you want a little bit of a more interesting game, I would definitely recommend trying this out. So for the early game, I did a separate recording for this just because I did not really have time. It's not too difficult. It's just a bit of sniper micro, but when recording all of these runs, the update was very near, so I kind of had to get it done quick. So that's why this part is in CE and the other part is in CE, but it is one continuous run with no edits, so it pretty much is a black border. I did show the screenshot before of the placement of that 000 dart monkey on round 6, so you can use any of the tracks to line it up perfectly, and that will beat round 6. And also a trick for doing the sniper micro is you want to look at how much money I have when I change the targetings. So instead of judging by how many balloons are on the screen, which is pretty tricky and unreliable, it's easier to judge it based off the money because that is a set value and a set number, and it will always be correct. So for example, like at 180, you change it to strong or whatever. That was just made up, but check it out and it will make it a bit easier. And then, so that's round 6, round 7, round 9 is not that bad. I think round 6 and round 7 are harder. But once you beat round 10, it gets much easier. These hard sniper micro rounds are only for the first 3 or 4 rounds. So that's all. And then after round 10, it actually gets extremely easy all the way up to the 80s. So that's a great thing about this. And for round 10, this placement is actually pretty important, and something weird about this is that you want to place it at the right time as well, because as you notice, the balloons advance, and then the dart monkey shoots, and it snipes, and the balloons go all the way to the back. So if you mess up the timing of this placement, it will make round 10 start later than what it should be. So you want to do that, and then change the targetings. That's a weird thing about round 10. And then that will go on. So as I said before, after this it will get a lot easier, so I'm turning the speed on, and that's that. I will see you in a bit. Alright, so as I said before, I came back and we are just about to get the airburst darts right now, and we will get that on round 27. Just buy it as soon as possible, and this is where it will cut to the actual run. So as you can see, we got Azili now. That's the hero we're going to use. I mentioned that earlier, but make sure you have Azili. And as I said, also, this is in CE, but all of this from round, I think it was like round 10 up, was completely black bordered, so you know that all of this is fine. And for the earlier rounds, it just takes a little bit of extra time. As I said before, that was time that I did not have, so with that, you can get a black border with the strategy pretty efficiently if you're good enough, though. So around 40, it got a little close, but as long as you buy the Alchemist upgrades at the right time, you'll get a weird gimmick where the Alchemist will stay in sync with what I have, and it will, that case with around 40 will happen every time. It happened actually 3 times, the exact same thing, where Bloons got kind of all the way to the end, but I still did not die, so that should be fine, as long as you buy the Alchemist at the right time. And we're continuing on with the discounts. Make sure the village placements are correct, because that's very important. And then this Alchemist that I just bought right there, that's also very important. You want to place it right above the subs, but not touching them, so that you can squeeze the mortar right in, put it right next to it. The mortar will get priority buff, and then because it's 401, a bunch of the subs will also get a secondary buff. And then throughout the mid game, we're going to be microing this mortar on rounds 76, 63, and 75. That was definitely not in order. We're going to have to do like more precise micro, but other than that, you just make sure it's in the right spot. So 63 is here. You don't have to do any micro with the heli just yet, but make sure the mortar is in the right spot. We're just going to move the heli mortar around every round. I did this with fast forward auto start on for like most of the game, but of course if you are not that quick with it, definitely don't do that. And then we're going to get in, and then we're going to be getting this back there. Make sure it just stays at 004. We want to be able to buy the Perma spike upgrade itself as soon as possible, and we're going on. Also, something that I forgot to do, Zeely is on strong in this. Put her on first, it's much better. I almost got to 75 because of that, and 75 is coming up here. So for 75, we are going to want to hex when the second wave of BFBs is close to dying. That way you will hex the group of 2 BFBs once, and then we get that twice. As you can see, it's on strong here. That was very bad because it did not hex all the Moabs inside. So make sure that's on first. Round 76 will be easier if you do this little trick where before round 75 ends, turn fast forward off, so that when you start 76, fast forward won't be on. I unfortunately did not do that, so it kind of all came at once, and it's a bit harder to micro the mortar with it. But basically use the heart stopper immediately, and then the big one will be able to get all the ceramics on the inside. As I said before, 78 is also one where you need to micro properly. Just have the mortar shell hit where the ceramics are every time. In order to do that, you hit right before the ceramics enter the area, so you get the full blast over the ceramics as they come in. 79, it's really easy until the fortified BFBs come in. We're just going to be holding them back, but when the fortified BFBs come in, this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of heli micro. We're going to have to hold the heli and bring the big one down so that the ceramics from the fortified BFBs don't slip away. And this is really easy on PC, but if you're on mobile, like me, it's really difficult because you need to do that micro while bringing the heli down. And once I almost bought big one, so you don't want to do that. After 79, buy Perma spike, and then we just hex 80. That's fine. Now, for the Perma spike, you want to just have it kind of go wherever right now. As long as you can use downdraft properly on this round, it will be fine. I did not really do it to the best, so you want to make sure you do that well. And then on round 82, we're going to use hex when the balloons start to get kind of closer. And then we can also set it on close and far. You want to set it on far for 82, so we get all the spikes going on that side so we don't die. 83 is easy, so you don't need to have any built up there. But on 83, we're going to buy Chinook, and this is where the ice doll comes in. So mid 83, get the ice at the top. 012, specifically that, don't get deep freeze. And we're going to lock the ceramics in. If you don't know how to do this, you probably want to practice in sandbox a few times, because it does take some practice. And this is where our Chinooking will come in. We Chinook Perma spike over. We also want to bring one of the Alks over so that Perma spike gets the AMD, which is very important. You will die to DDTs if you don't do that. And then we want to try to just like fiddle with far, close, and smart targetings. to make sure the spikes land in the right place. And I will say this now, spike factory targeting is extremely stupid. No matter how smart it says it is, it's still stupid. So you're going to take a lot of fiddling to deal with it. And also something that I would do in Sandbox, you might want to check out the placements first, so you make sure which placement puts spikes on far and close, so you get a more accurate understanding of where the most optimal placements come in. And we're just going to be chinooking these guys around, stalling every round, and that will be good. Now the next thing we're going to do is get a 031 ice, put it right next to that lake, and then we're going to chinook the 100 snipers onto the ice while we are trying to beat these rounds. So you want to do this kind of in between you're chinooking the perma spike. So if you have to chinook the perma spike, definitely do that first. You don't want to die. So we're doing that. We're stalling these ceramics, and we will bring the first sniper over. Just stays there, and perma spike is being moved around again. And we can also replace all of the things up at the top. We'll just get a 1-2 ices there to stall every round, like so. And then after that, we're going to get the other 100 sniper over, and that's good. Also, something that I will note right now is that you want to use Azili's Hex well. It's very important that you do the right timing at Azili's Hex. You want to be able to hex as many things as possible, but also something very important is that if there's not many ceramics on the screen, then you also are probably going to want to hold off on the hex unless you really are going to die. So it's better to have a more efficient stall than get more pops out of Azili, because the stall means everything. You want as many spikes as possible, and it's very important that you do that. So you want to make sure you have the perfect balance using hex at the right time to cut the most RBE, but you want to also make sure you have a stall. And as a general tip, you want to hex the ZOMGs at top priority. So kind of when the ZOMGs get far down, they're getting weak, pull the hex, and then all of them will just go down in a straight line. You'll see me do that on like 96 and 92. Also on 94 is a pretty satisfying one. I just hex everything down. So for example, here like 97, I could just hex all of the ZOMGs, but I would, excuse me, I'd have no ceramics there. So I just don't hex and I get ceramics. So you want to keep that in mind. And also, as you saw before, with the ice, we got both 100 snipers on it. We chinooked the ice on top of itself, which killed the ice, and the snipers drowned. This is very important because the 100 snipers will kill your stall. It makes the stall last a lot shorter. So we want to make sure that we can keep the stall as long as possible. So we just kill them and they're gone. And this is a trick that FRDS gave me, and it's very good. It makes 96 and 98 a lot easier. So after that, we will be going into the 90s soon. And one of the more difficult rounds here coming up to note is 91. For 96, you don't want to put down too many spikes. I kind of did, but it still did not matter. But one time, though, I put like a ton of spikes on round 90, and you don't need it because it's just 3DDTs. So only like 10 or 15 so spikes, that will just be fine. And so put more on 91 than 90, or else you might die there. So we're stalling, and we bring the perma spike over, just a few on 90, and put it on close to get more on 91. That's good. Also here, by 030NG, chinook it out. You don't want the cleansing foam to be ruining the stall, and this will become a overclock for the perma spike to get even more spikes out. So that will be very good. And then other support that we're going to be getting a little later on is mob glue, unstable concoction, and then we're going to be getting some presses on the other side for 98. Also, another thing that I did, I chinooked Azili down, so she did not kill the stall up at the top in lane 3. That's very important. Here's 90, and we can also do something on 90. We can stall the camo ceramics on the inside. You just, when the TDTs pop, bring the ceramics up. They're camos, so they won't get intelled if they're up at the ices, and you can stall a little bit longer. It's not really necessary, but if your spikes are low for 91, it's pretty good. And 91, here we go. We're just going to hex. Try to get as many down, but some will still go down, so you want to make sure you have a good amount of spikes. And then this is where we're just going to be wanting to chinook the perma spike around. Best as possible, use Azili's hex best as possible, and then pray that you have enough spikes to survive. And we're just going to be doing this throughout and trying to cut as much RB on the balloons, use hex at the right time, and get as much spikes as possible. And that's really it, so good luck. Right, so 96 is ending here, keeping the stall. But for 97, we put no spikes on 97 because we're just going to hex both ZUMGs. You want to make sure they're a little bit weaker so the hex will jump over and kill both of them. Something pretty unfortunate happened here. I was actually streaming this one, and right at the end, right here, the stream cut out. So once I realized that, I got my own recording, but that was only after I beat 98. So I think I chinooked the unstable concoction over. I did not know if I did that before for 96, but now the unstable concoction is over there. We have the more presses down there to just push back as many stuff. I used the hex right before the ZUMG, so we got a few fortified BFBs, and then we got all the ZUMGs hexed, and we kept the spike pile there, and then we moved over. We need a good chunk on 99, but we don't need a whole lot. We're just going to put them on 100. We're going to stall. 100's going to come over, and then as soon as the bad pops, put hex on. That will eat the insides of the ZUMGs and the DDTs, and that will be a win. So again, this one is pretty difficult, but it's also a very fun run. It's off meta, and even though Permaspike is a very meta tower, using Permaspike on a map where there's multiple lanes is definitely something that's not common because you have to be chinooking, and that is it. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you liked the run.